Long ago, in the golden days of Stanley Baldwin and the League of Nations and all that, I came as a young man to the city of Dundee, where I had reason to believe I should make my fortune, which at the time was marked up to £5.10 a week. It's always a risk to go back. Sometimes it can also be an impertinence. After 40 years, it's evident that not only does that Dundee no longer exist, but neither does that young man. Yes, this is the place right now. How often I used to look out on this and say, is it possible? This is one of the great locations to put a town on, this estuary, this Firth of Tay, this nice little hill behind us. It's almost Neapolitan geography, and look what's been made of it. Look at all this sprawling, brutal, meaningless building that's accreted around this lovely river. It was pretty grim in the days of the Depression and poverty, and it's not much prettier now. Bonnie Dundee, my God. One memorable thing endures, a convivial old graveyard smack in the middle of town. It must be an immensely valuable site now in these new booming days. It's called the Howff, the meeting place. In my day, it was the meeting place both of the dead and the half-dead, the debris of the Depression, mooning their idleness away among the wealthy phantoms. I passed them every day as I went to work, for I at least had work. How many thousand times did I slip cautiously through these doors, the office of the Courier, where I first fell addict to the curious compulsions of the newspaper trade. Now, a generation later, something of the same peculiar uncertainty suddenly returns. What foolish error shall I make today? Anyhow, for good or ill, here I was enmeshed in the inky, edgy, clattersome and voracious occupation that was well called the press, since with the name we acknowledged the domination of the machine over the men. Thud and thump and grind and roll, out come the thoughts and the non-thoughts, the ads and the agonies, all the truths and trivialities of great importance to us, if to nobody else. So we spread the word to the waiting public of Dundee and Dunfermline, Cooper and Carnoustie, Luchas and Lochee. We are now approaching the touching scene that is the standard component of all these television nostalgia corners, whether it be elderly gentlemen returning to Calcutta or middle-aged gentlemen coming back to Dundee. These little trips down memory lane can be very rough going for the ego. Still, it can be very wholesome. I think everybody should be obliged from time to time to examine the pretensions of his youth. It's very good for the soul. In those days, it was the custom to have nobody write under their own name, but under a great variety of whimsical pseudonyms. In this way, I'd change my role and character completely from week to week, assuming sometimes the nature of this and sometimes the nature of that, male or female, animal, vegetable, mineral. Oh, yes. Sometimes I also was a reporter. This is November 1939. That's Armistice Day. That's always a very serious trap. Nor do I appear to have totally avoided it. At 11 o'clock I stood in George Square. There was an air raid shelter on one side and a girl selling poppies on the other. Well, that's reasonable objective stuff so far. Yesterday was Remembrance Day. So it was. It was the first Armistice Day after the war had been declared. Yesterday was Remembrance Day. In Holland, they're flooding the meadows and mining the roads. On the fields of Lorraine, they're laying tank traps and waiting in the mud. The German losses are described as appreciable, unquote. Hitler confers with his staff. A wreath of poppies beside a surface shelter. You can ration even sentiment. Well, it could have been worse. It usually was, I must say. At times I reached a genuine mastery of the banal. I will forbear to quote. But this sort of reporting was really quite big time for me. It had taken me ages to graduate up to actually writing anything, from the long periods of paste pot filling and file spiking and all the other menial jobs that probably on the whole did a great deal less harm. Not that one's opportunities for doing harm were very great in those days, or good either for that matter. That came later, I dare say. Here, among the undistinguished certainties of a provincial society, I attempted to remedy the confusions of a dotty childhood.
Page 10, I think it's understood.
One laboured on in the subs room as they labour on today.
I think it's understood, thank you.
The place is still full of echoes of the past.
That press club was quite a place in Glasgow, of course, Jim, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Remember the night you fell out of the taxi going there?
I do not remember that night.
We'd been down Angus. Jack Hilton was playing in the Piccadilly, and we came out and decided we'd go down to the press club. And we got this taxi, all piled in. You sat down in the small seat, leaned on the door, and disappeared. Well, the taxi was going, so we just closed the door and carried on. And when we got upstairs, there you were sitting at the bar. You decided you'd beat us to it and run like the wind down that lane over from Solihull Street into West Regent Street and boxed us all.
Well, you're a truthful man, Alf. Otherwise, I'd have said that was a highly unlikely story.
It's a true bill. It's a true bill. And has it been all worthwhile, Jim? Did you find what you expected you'd find? Did you find it worthwhile?
Yes, I think I expended a little bit more than I really intended to do.
Yeah.
But I no longer believe in logic, anybody's logic. I think everybody in life now makes so many errors that it's a full-time job trying to prove that even one of your previous judgments was sound.
Mm-hmm.
Me most of all.
Yes, yes. But you're not dissatisfied about the way things have worked out for you?
Not for me personally, no. You pay a price for it, of course.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
We've all lived a long time since then, and nothing is any longer any easier to explain or to define. I don't know. I was just a cab follower of the age I lived in. I don't think I really had much choice. Dundee was made by jute, and Dundee was ruined by jute. Jute is now restored to Dundee, but no longer can its fortunes destroy the people as they could then. Now there are other things to make, watches and cash registers. In the 30s, the watches were all in the pawn shop, and we had no cash to register. But downtown, things were always completely different, and the morning civilities of the tea shop still continue. Stands the church clock at 10:30? Has coffee time come round again?
Well, I don't know how Jill managed to see coming up the road. I thought to the Jack Dummies, but I never even heard his car stop at the door. Oh, she says, you must have had a wonderful day. She says, yes, we had quite a good day, but then we went to... But I used to get hard. But she said, rubbing into Jeanette. You needn't think you're impressing me because you're not.
Meanwhile, our staple trade was running out. I don't suppose I shall ever really disentangle myself from this place. I don't think I ever loved it, but one wasn't critical, one lived there. At the time, it was all the world I had.